The derelict alien ship floated silently in the void of space, its hull scarred and broken. It had been drifting for centuries, maybe longer, until the deep space mining crew stumbled upon it. They were not explorers or scientists, they were workers, hired to extract resources from the far reaches of the galaxy. But this discovery was unlike anything they had ever seen. The ship's design was alien, with jagged edges and glowing symbols etched into its surface. It was ancient, older than any known civilization. The crew hesitated, but curiosity got the better of them. They boarded the ship, their flashlights cutting through the darkness. Inside, they found remnants of a long-dead civilization. Strange artifacts lined the walls, and the air was thick with dust. But what caught their attention was a console in the center of the ship, still powered after all these years. A single message flashed on the screen, repeating in a language they could somehow understand. "Never anger humanity." The crew laughed. It was a joke, they thought. A prank left by some ancient race. They ignored the warning and began scavenging the ship for anything valuable. But as they worked, something stirred deep within the ship. A low hum filled the air, growing louder with each passing second. Suddenly, the ship's systems came to life. Lights flickered, and the walls began to shake. The crew panicked, dropping their tools and running for the exit. But it was too late. A blinding light engulfed the ship, and in an instant, the crew was gone. Days later, a human exploration team arrived, drawn by the mysterious disappearance of the mining crew. They found the alien ship, now silent and lifeless once more. But the warning still flashed on the console, a chilling reminder of what had happened. The team's leader, a seasoned explorer, stared at the message. "Never anger humanity," he read aloud. His team exchanged uneasy glances. What could it mean? And why had the ancient aliens left such a warning? As they began their investigation, they uncovered fragments of the ship's records. Images of a brutal war flashed across the screen, showing an alien civilization brought to its knees by an unexpected enemy, humanity. The team realized the warning was not for them. It was for anyone who might threaten humanity. And as they delved deeper, they began to understand the true power of the species they called home. The exploration team worked tirelessly, piecing together the fragments of the alien ship's records. The console displayed images and data that told a story older than any human history book. It was a story of war, of survival, and of a humanity that no longer existed, or so they thought. The records showed an ancient alien civilization, vast and powerful, that had once ruled over countless star systems. They were conquerors, enslaving weaker species and expanding their empire without mercy. But then, they encountered humanity. At first, the aliens saw humans as nothing more than primitive beings. They were small, fragile, and divided into countless tribes and nations. The aliens believed they could easily subjugate humanity, adding another species to their collection of slaves. But they were wrong. The records showed humanity's response to the invasion. At first, the humans were overwhelmed. Their weapons were primitive, their armies disorganized. But as the war dragged on, something changed. Humanity united, setting aside their differences to face a common enemy. They adapted, learning from the aliens' technology and tactics. The images on the console showed battles that defied imagination. Human soldiers, armed with weapons cobbled together from alien tech, fighting with a ferocity that shocked their enemies. Cities burned, starships exploded, and the aliens began to realize they had made a terrible mistake. One image stood out, a massive battle on a barren moon. The aliens had set up a fortress, believing it to be impregnable. But humanity, driven by desperation and rage, launched a suicidal attack. They breached the fortress, sacrificing thousands to destroy the alien command center. The records ended with the aliens' defeat. Their empire crumbled, their fleets destroyed, and their homeworld left in ruins. The survivors fled, leaving behind a single warning for future generations: never anger humanity. The exploration team was stunned. They had always known humanity had a violent past, but this was something else entirely. This was a side of humanity they had never imagined, a side that had once brought an entire civilization to its knees. As they continued their investigation, they found more clues. The alien ship had been part of a scouting mission, sent to investigate the remnants of humanity's ancient empire. But something had gone wrong. The ship had been damaged, its crew killed, and the warning left behind. The team's leader, a man with decades of experience in deep space exploration, stared at the console. "This changes everything," he said. "If this is true, if humanity was once capable of this, what does that mean for us now?" His team had no answers. They were explorers, not historians or soldiers. But they knew one thing: they had to report their findings to Earth. As they prepared to leave the alien ship, the console flickered one last time. A new message appeared, written in the same ancient language. "The rage of humanity is a fire that never dies. It sleeps, but it can be awakened. Beware." The team left the ship, their minds racing with questions. What had awakened humanity's rage in the past? And could it happen again? Back on their own ship, they transmitted their findings to Earth. The response was immediate. High-ranking officials demanded more information, and scientists scrambled to analyze the data. But for the exploration team, the mission was far from over. As they set a course for Earth, they couldn't shake the feeling that they had only scratched the surface of the mystery. The alien ship was just the beginning. Somewhere out there, in the vastness of space, the truth about humanity's past was waiting to be discovered. And so was the danger. The exploration team's findings sent shockwaves through Earth's scientific and political communities. The ancient records of humanity's past were unlike anything they had ever seen. For centuries, humanity had believed itself to be a peaceful, advanced civilization, focused on exploration and cooperation. But now, they were forced to confront a darker truth: their ancestors had once been warriors, capable of unimaginable destruction. As scientists and historians debated the implications, a new threat emerged. The alien ship's signal had not gone unnoticed. Deep in the far reaches of the galaxy, a powerful alien empire had intercepted the transmission. They were a species known as the Kryloth, a ruthless and expansionist civilization that had conquered countless worlds. To them, the warning was not a deterrent, it was a challenge. The Kryloth High Command convened an emergency meeting. Their leader, a towering figure with cold, calculating eyes, addressed the council. "This humanity they speak of," he said, his voice echoing through the chamber. "They are weak. Divided. We have seen their worlds, their technology. They are no match for us." But one of the council members, a younger Kryloth with a reputation for caution, disagreed. "The warning is clear," he said. "We should not underestimate them. If they were capable of destroying an entire civilization, we must tread carefully." The leader dismissed the warning. "The past is irrelevant. What matters is the present. And in the present, humanity is no threat to us. We will crush them before they can become one." The council voted, and the decision was made. The Kryloth would send a fleet to Earth, demanding humanity's surrender. If they refused, the fleet would destroy their planet and erase their species from existence. Meanwhile, on Earth, the exploration team's findings had sparked a global debate. Some argued that humanity should prepare for war, while others believed they should seek peace at any cost. The leaders of Earth's nations were divided, unable to agree on a course of action. It was then that an unexpected figure stepped forward. He was an old man, a retired war veteran who had spent decades in obscurity. His name was forgotten by most, but his deeds were not. He had fought in humanity's last great war, a conflict that had nearly destroyed their civilization. The veteran addressed the leaders of Earth, his voice steady and strong. "I have seen what happens when we are divided," he said. "I have seen the cost of war. But I have also seen what happens when we stand together. When we fight for something greater than ourselves. The Kryloth think we are weak. They think we have forgotten who we are. But they are wrong." His words struck a chord. The leaders of Earth listened as he outlined a plan. They would not surrender. They would not bow to threats. They would prepare for war, not out of anger or hatred, but out of necessity. The veteran was put in charge of Earth's defense. He began by gathering the best minds on the planet, scientists, engineers, and strategists. Together, they studied the ancient records, searching for clues that could help them in the coming battle. They discovered that humanity's ancestors had used a combination of advanced technology and unconventional tactics to defeat their enemies. The veteran realized that they would need to do the same. As the Kryloth fleet approached Earth, humanity worked tirelessly to prepare. Old weapons were refurbished, new ones were invented, and soldiers were trained in the art of war. The veteran led the effort, inspiring those around him with his determination and resolve. But not everyone was convinced. Some believed that humanity was doomed, that they could never hope to defeat the Kryloth. The veteran knew that fear was their greatest enemy, and he worked to dispel it. "We are not the same as our ancestors," he told the soldiers. "We are better. We have learned from their mistakes. We fight not for conquest, but for survival. And that makes us stronger." As the Kryloth fleet entered the solar system, humanity was ready. The stage was set for a battle that would determine the fate of their species. The Kryloth commander sent a message to Earth, demanding their immediate surrender. The response came not from Earth's leaders, but from the veteran himself. "We will not surrender," he said. "We will not bow to your threats. If you want Earth, you will have to take it from us." The Kryloth commander laughed. "You are brave," he said. "But bravery will not save you." The battle began. The Kryloth fleet loomed over Earth, a dark shadow against the stars. Their ships were massive, bristling with weapons and armored to withstand any attack. Humanity's defenses, though hastily assembled, were ready. The veteran had ensured that every resource, every weapon, and every soldier was in place. But as the two sides prepared for battle, the leaders of Earth faced a difficult decision. The Kryloth had sent another message, offering one last chance to surrender. "Lay down your arms," the Kryloth commander said, his voice cold and unyielding. "Submit to our rule, and we will spare your planet. Resist, and you will be destroyed." The leaders of Earth gathered in an emergency meeting. The room was tense, filled with fear and uncertainty. Some argued that surrender was the only option. "We cannot win this war," one leader said. "The Kryloth are too powerful. If we fight, we will only bring destruction upon ourselves." Others disagreed. "If we surrender, we lose everything," another leader argued. "Our freedom, our future, our very identity as a species. We must fight, no matter the cost." The debate raged on, with no clear resolution in sight. The veteran, who had been silent until now, stood up. "I have seen war," he said. "I have seen what it does to people, to civilizations. But I have also seen what happens when we give up. When we let fear dictate our actions. The Kryloth think we are weak. They think we will crumble under pressure. But they are wrong." He paused, looking around the room. "We are not the same as our ancestors. We have learned from their mistakes. We have grown, evolved, become something greater. But one thing has not changed, our will to survive. Our determination to protect what is ours. If we surrender, we betray everything we stand for. If we fight, we have a chance, not just to survive, but to prove that we are more than what they think we are." His words resonated with the leaders. One by one, they nodded in agreement. The decision was made: humanity would not surrender. They would fight, not out of anger or hatred, but out of a desire to protect their future. The veteran was given full command of Earth's defenses. He knew the odds were against them, but he also knew that humanity had one advantage: their unpredictability. The Kryloth were used to fighting enemies who followed the rules of war. Humanity, on the other hand, had a history of breaking them. As the Kryloth fleet moved into position, the veteran addressed the soldiers. "This is not just a battle for Earth," he said. "This is a battle for who we are. For what we believe in. The Kryloth think they can crush us. They think we are weak. But we will show them the truth. We will show them what humanity is capable of." The soldiers cheered, their fear replaced by determination. They knew the odds were against them, but they also knew they had no choice. They were fighting for their homes, their families, their future. The Kryloth commander, confident in his victory, gave the order to attack. The first wave of ships descended toward Earth, their weapons charging. But humanity was ready. The veteran had devised a plan, one that relied on cunning and deception. As the Kryloth ships approached, they were met with a barrage of fire from Earth's defenses. But this was only a distraction. Hidden in the shadows of the moon, a small fleet of human ships waited. These ships were not designed for direct combat. They were fast, agile, and equipped with experimental technology. Their mission was simple: infiltrate the Kryloth fleet and disable their command ship. The Kryloth, focused on the battle below, did not notice the human ships until it was too late. The human fleet struck with precision, targeting the Kryloth command ship's engines and weapons systems. The Kryloth commander, realizing what was happening, ordered his ships to retreat. But it was too late. The human ships had done their job. With their command ship disabled, the Kryloth fleet was thrown into chaos. Ships collided, weapons misfired, and the once mighty fleet began to fall apart. The veteran watched from Earth's surface, a grim smile on his face. "They thought we were weak," he said. "They thought we would surrender. But they were wrong." The battle was far from over, but humanity had scored a crucial victory. The Kryloth, for the first time, realized that they had underestimated their enemy. As the Kryloth fleet regrouped, the veteran prepared for the next phase of the battle. He knew the Kryloth would not give up so easily. They would come back stronger, more determined. But humanity was ready. The victory against the Kryloth fleet was a turning point, but the veteran knew it was only the beginning. The Kryloth would not retreat for long. They would regroup, adapt, and return with even greater force. Humanity had to be ready. The veteran called a meeting of Earth's top scientists, engineers, and military strategists. "We need every advantage we can get," he said. "The Kryloth are powerful, but they're not invincible. We have to think outside the box. We have to use everything at our disposal." The team began by studying the ancient records from the alien ship. They discovered that humanity's ancestors had used a combination of advanced technology and unconventional tactics to defeat their enemies. One particular weapon stood out, a device known as the Rift Generator. The Rift Generator was a weapon of last resort, capable of creating artificial black holes. It was incredibly dangerous, but also incredibly effective. The records showed that humanity's ancestors had used it to destroy entire fleets in a single strike. The scientists were hesitant. "This technology is beyond anything we've ever seen," one of them said. "We don't even know if we can replicate it, let alone control it." The veteran nodded. "I understand the risks. But we don't have a choice. If the Kryloth return, we need something that can level the playing field. We need the Rift Generator." The team worked around the clock, using the ancient records as a guide. It was a race against time, but they were determined to succeed. Meanwhile, the veteran focused on training Earth's soldiers. He knew that technology alone would not win the war. The soldiers needed to be ready for anything. He organized drills and simulations, pushing the soldiers to their limits. He taught them to think creatively, to adapt to any situation. The Kryloth are predictable, he said. They rely on their strength and numbers. But we are unpredictable. We are resourceful. And that's our advantage. As the days turned into weeks, the team made progress. They successfully replicated the rift generator, though it was far from perfect. The device was unstable, and there was no guarantee it would work as intended. But it was a start. The veteran also reached out to Earth's allies. Though humanity had been isolated for centuries, there were other species who had suffered under the Kryloth's rule. The veteran knew that if they could unite, they would stand a better chance against the Kryloth. One by one, the allies responded. Some were hesitant, fearing the Kryloth's wrath. But others were eager to fight back. Together, they formed a coalition, a united front against the Kryloth. The veteran addressed the coalition. "This is not just our fight," he said. "This is a fight for freedom, for justice, for the future of all species. The Kryloth think they can dominate us. They think they can crush us. But together, we will show them the truth. Together, we will win." The coalition began preparing for the next battle. Ships were repaired, weapons were upgraded, and soldiers were trained. The rift generator was installed on Earth's most powerful ship, ready to be used if necessary. But the veteran knew that the real battle was not just against the Kryloth. It was against fear, against doubt, against the belief that they could not win. He worked tirelessly to inspire hope, to remind everyone of what they were fighting for. As the Kryloth fleet returned, stronger and more determined than ever, humanity was ready. The veteran stood on the bridge of Earth's flagship, watching as the enemy ships approached. "This is it," he said. "This is our moment. We fight not just for ourselves, but for everyone who has ever stood up to tyranny. We fight for the future. And we will not back down." The battle began. The Kryloth fleet descended upon Earth like a storm, their ships darkening the sky. This time, they were prepared. Their command ship, now heavily fortified, led the charge. The Kryloth commander's voice echoed across the communication channels, cold and unyielding. "This is your final chance," he said. "Surrender, or face annihilation." The veteran, standing on the bridge of Earth's flagship, responded with calm defiance. "We will not surrender. If you want Earth, you'll have to take it from us." The Kryloth commander sneered. "So be it." The battle began with a deafening roar. The Kryloth unleashed a barrage of energy weapons, their beams slicing through the darkness. Earth's defenses responded in kind, their weapons lighting up the sky. The veteran watched as the battle unfolded, his mind racing. He knew they couldn't win a direct confrontation. The Kryloth were too powerful, their numbers too great. But they didn't need to win the battle, they just needed to outsmart the enemy. "Activate the decoy fleet," he ordered. A swarm of unmanned drones emerged from Earth's atmosphere, their signals mimicking those of real ships. The Kryloth, believing them to be the main force, diverted their attention. "Now," the veteran said. "Strike their command ship." Earth's flagship, along with a small fleet of allied ships, moved into position. They had one goal: disable the Kryloth command ship. Without it, the fleet would be thrown into chaos. The Kryloth commander realized too late what was happening. "Focus fire on their flagship," he shouted. But it was no use. The human ships were too fast, too agile. They weaved through the Kryloth fleet, dodging fire and striking with precision. The veteran's ship reached the command ship's flank. "Fire the rift generator," he ordered. The device activated, its energy building to a crescendo. For a moment, everything seemed to stop. Then, with a blinding flash, a small black hole appeared, tearing through the Kryloth command ship. The ship was ripped apart, its hull collapsing into the void. The Kryloth fleet, now leaderless, began to falter. Ships collided, weapons misfired, and the once mighty fleet fell into disarray. The veteran watched as the Kryloth retreated, their ships scattering in all directions. The battle was far from over, but humanity had scored a crucial victory. As the dust settled, the veteran addressed his crew. "This is just the beginning," he said. "The Kryloth will not give up so easily. But today, we showed them what humanity is capable of. Today, we showed them that we will not be defeated." The crew cheered, their spirits lifted by the victory. But the veteran knew the fight was far from over. The Kryloth would return, stronger and more determined than ever. As the fleet returned to Earth, the veteran received a message from one of the allied species. "We have analyzed the Kryloth's tactics," the message read. "They are vulnerable in one area, their supply lines. If we can cut them off, we can weaken their fleet." The veteran smiled. "Then that's what we'll do," he said. The victory against the Kryloth fleet had given humanity and its allies a much-needed boost in morale. But the veteran knew that the war was far from over. The Kryloth were a relentless enemy, and they would not stop until Earth was under their control, or destroyed. As the coalition prepared for the next phase of the war, the veteran turned his attention to the Kryloth's supply lines. The allied species had provided valuable intelligence, revealing that the Kryloth relied heavily on a network of resource planets to fuel their war machine. If the coalition could disrupt these supply lines, they could weaken the Kryloth fleet and buy themselves more time. The veteran called a meeting with the coalition leaders. "We need to strike their resource planets," he said. "But we can't do it alone. We need a coordinated effort, with each species contributing what they can." The leaders agreed, and a plan was put into motion. The coalition would launch a series of targeted attacks on the Kryloth's resource planets, aiming to cripple their ability to wage war. The first target was a planet known as Krylos 7, a major hub for the Kryloth's mining operations. The veteran led the attack, commanding a fleet of human and allied ships. As they approached the planet, the Kryloth defenses sprang into action. Fighters swarmed the coalition fleet, their weapons firing relentlessly. But the coalition was prepared. They had studied the Kryloth's tactics and developed countermeasures. The battle was fierce, with both sides suffering heavy losses. But the coalition's determination paid off. They managed to break through the Kryloth defenses and destroy the planet's mining facilities. As the coalition fleet prepared to retreat, the veteran received a transmission from one of the Kryloth commanders. "You think you've won," the commander said, his voice filled with rage. "But you've only delayed the inevitable. We will crush you, just as we have crushed countless others." The veteran responded calmly. "You underestimate us. We are not like the others. We will fight until our last breath, and we will never surrender." The transmission ended, but the veteran couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to the Kryloth's motives than simple conquest. He ordered his team to analyze the data they had collected during the attack. What they discovered was shocking. The Kryloth were not just conquerors, they were scavengers. They had been harvesting resources from countless planets, not to fuel their empire, but to build something far more sinister, a massive superweapon capable of destroying entire star systems. The veteran realized that the Kryloth's true goal was not just to conquer Earth, but to use it as a test site for their superweapon. If they succeeded, they would unleash it on the rest of the galaxy, wiping out anyone who dared to oppose them. The veteran called an emergency meeting with the coalition leaders. "We have to stop them," he said. "If they complete this superweapon, it won't just be Earth that's in danger, it will be the entire galaxy." The leaders agreed, and a new plan was formed. The coalition would launch a full-scale assault on the Kryloth's main base of operations, where the superweapon was being constructed. The veteran knew it would be their most dangerous mission yet. The Kryloth would be expecting them, and they would stop at nothing to protect their superweapon. As the Coalition fleet prepared for the assault, the veteran addressed his crew. "This is it," he said. "This is our chance to end this war, not just for us, but for everyone. We fight not just for Earth, but for the future of the galaxy. And we will not fail." The crew cheered, their determination unwavering. They knew the risks, but they also knew what was at stake. The fleet set a course for the Kryloth's main base, ready to face their greatest challenge yet. The Coalition fleet approached the Kryloth's main base, a massive space station orbiting a dying star. The station was heavily fortified, with layers of defenses and a fleet of warships guarding it. The veteran knew that breaching it would be nearly impossible, but they had no choice. The superweapon had to be destroyed. As the fleet moved into position, the veteran addressed the Coalition leaders one last time. "This is it," he said. "We hit them hard, and we hit them fast. Our goal is the superweapon. Nothing else matters." The leaders nodded, their faces grim but determined. The fleet split into smaller groups, each with a specific target. The veterans group was tasked with breaching the station's defenses and disabling the superweapon. The battle began with a deafening roar. The Kryloth unleashed everything they had, their weapons lighting up the void. The Coalition fleet responded in kind, their ships weaving through the chaos with precision. The veterans' ship led the charge, its shields absorbing the brunt of the Kryloth's fire. They reached the station's outer defenses, where they were met with a swarm of fighters. "Focus on the fighters," the veteran ordered. "We need to clear a path." The crew worked tirelessly, their weapons firing relentlessly. Slowly but surely, they began to push through the defenses. As they approached the station, the veteran received a transmission from one of the Kryloth commanders. "You are brave," the commander said. "But bravery will not save you. The superweapon is nearly complete. Once it is activated, your fleet will be destroyed, and your planet will be next." The veteran responded calmly. "We'll see about that." The transmission ended, and the veteran turned to his crew. "We're running out of time," he said. "We need to get inside that station." The ship's engineer, a young woman with a knack for improvisation, came up with a plan. "If we overload the ship's engines, we can create a shockwave strong enough to breach the station's hull," she said. The veteran hesitated. It was a risky plan, but they had no other options. "Do it," he said. The crew worked quickly, rerouting power to the engines. The ship began to shake violently as the energy built up. "Hold on," the veteran shouted. With a deafening explosion, the ship's engines overloaded, sending a shockwave rippling through space. The station's hull buckled under the force, creating a gap just large enough for the ship to slip through. The veteran's ship entered the station, its crew ready for anything. They fought their way through the corridors, their weapons blazing. The Kryloth soldiers were relentless, but the Coalition forces were determined. Finally, they reached the superweapons control room. The veteran and a small team entered, their weapons at the ready. Inside, they found the Kryloth commander, standing in front of the superweapons control panel. "You're too late," he said. "The superweapon is already activated. In a matter of minutes, your fleet will be destroyed." The veteran didn't hesitate. He raised his weapon and fired, hitting the control panel. Sparks flew as the superweapon began to destabilize. The commander laughed. "You think you've won? You've only doomed us all." The veteran grabbed the commander and dragged him out of the room. "We need to get out of here," he shouted. The team ran as fast as they could, the station shaking violently around them. They reached their ship just as the superweapon exploded, sending a shockwave rippling through space. The Coalition fleet, caught in the blast, was thrown into chaos. But as the dust settled, they realized that the superweapon was gone. The Krylotha's greatest weapon had been destroyed. The veteran watched as the Kryloth fleet, now leaderless and demoralized, began to retreat. The coalition had won, but the cost had been high. As the fleet returned to Earth, the veteran reflected on the war. It had been a long and difficult journey, but they had emerged victorious. The war was over. The Kryloth fleet, once a terrifying force, had been reduced to scattered remnants. Their superweapon was destroyed, and their empire was in disarray. Humanity and its allies had emerged victorious, but the cost had been immense. Cities lay in ruins, lives had been lost, and the scars of battle would take generations to heal. As the coalition forces returned to Earth, the veteran stood on the bridge of his ship, gazing at the planet below. It was a bittersweet moment. They had won, but the victory had come at a great price. The leaders of Earth and the allied species gathered for a final meeting. The veteran, now a symbol of hope and resilience, addressed them. "We have faced the darkness," he said, his voice steady but filled with emotion. "We have seen what happens when fear and hatred take hold. But we have also seen what happens when we stand together, when we fight for something greater than ourselves. Today, we have proven that no matter how powerful the enemy, no matter how dire the situation, we will not be defeated." The leaders nodded, their faces reflecting the weight of the journey they had endured. One of the allied leaders, a representative of a species that had suffered greatly under the Kryloth, spoke up. "This victory belongs to all of us," they said. "But it is not the end. The Kryloth may be weakened, but they are not gone. We must remain vigilant. We must ensure that such a threat never rises again." The veteran agreed. "The Kryloth were not born evil," he said. "They were shaped by their circumstances, by their choices. We must learn from their mistakes. We must build a future where such destruction is unthinkable." The meeting ended with a renewed sense of purpose. The coalition agreed to establish a new alliance, one dedicated to peace and cooperation. They would share their knowledge, their resources, and their strength to ensure that no species would ever suffer as they had. As the veteran left the meeting, he was approached by a young soldier. The soldier, barely out of training, looked at him with awe. "Sir," the soldier said, "I just wanted to say, thank you. You've given us hope. You've shown us what we're capable of." The veteran smiled, placing a hand on the soldier's shoulder. "The hope was always there," he said. "I just reminded you of it. Remember, the strength of humanity, of any species, is not in its weapons or its technology. It's in its heart. In its ability to come together, to fight for what's right, and to never give up." The soldier nodded, a newfound determination in their eyes. In the weeks that followed, the veteran worked tirelessly to rebuild what had been lost. He traveled across Earth and beyond, helping to repair the damage and strengthen the bonds between species. One day, as he stood on a hill overlooking a rebuilt city, he was joined by an old friend. The friend, a scientist who had worked on the rift generator, looked out at the city with a sense of pride. "We've come a long way," the scientist said. "We have," the veteran replied. "But there's still a long way to go." The scientist nodded. "Do you think we'll ever be ready for what's out there?" The veteran smiled. "We don't have to be ready for everything. We just have to be ready to face it together." As the sun set, casting a golden glow over the city, the veteran reflected on the journey they had taken. It had been a path filled with pain and sacrifice, but also with hope and triumph. He turned to the scientist. "The Kryloth thought they could break us. They thought they could destroy us. But they were wrong. Because no matter what happens, no matter how dark the night, humanity will always rise. And as long as we stand together, we will never fall." The scientist smiled. "You should write that down. It sounds like a lesson worth remembering." The veteran laughed. "Maybe I will." And so, the story of humanity's resilience, of its ability to overcome even the greatest of odds, became a beacon of hope for the galaxy. The warning from the ancient alien ship, "Never anger humanity," was not a threat, but a testament to the strength of a species that refused to be broken. As the veteran walked away, the city lights twinkling in the distance, he knew that the future was uncertain. But he also knew that as long as they held on to their courage, their compassion, and their unity, they could face whatever came their way. And that was a lesson worth fighting for.